Want to teach your kids financial literacy, but not sure where to start? Greenlight can help. With Greenlight, parents can keep an eye on kids' spending and saving, while kids and teens use a card of their own to build money confidence. As a parent, you can send instant money transfers, set up chores, automate allowance, and more. It's a convenient way to run your household, customized to your family's needs, and the easy way to raise financially smart kids. Get started with Greenlight today and get your first month free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Chosen one. Be brave, Professor. Be brave like my mother.
How do you feel?
Excellent. Really excellent.
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hogwarts, a podcast. We are covering Chapter 25, The Seer, Overheard. You know what that means. Trelawney. Yeah, get ready for that conversation. As you can tell by the laugh, Elizabeth is with us.
Hi, guys.
And yes, we will get to Trelawney in this chapter, as well as some other really cool things. This is another loaded chapter, really. But before we get to it, we have a couple of shout-outs. And the first shout-out is one of our avid followers on Twitter, where you can find us at HogwartsAPod. Jenny Conway, at Jenny Conway. We tweeted out that we are nearing the end of Book 6 here. Which
is crazy.
We are getting towards the end of it, so we're starting our prep for Book 7. But Jenny commented on that post by saying, "It's great we're getting closer to the end, but it's also sad thinking that the end is coming up, as this is a great podcast.
Aww.
Love listening to you all." And we have said thank you so much, and that we do have some things planned for Book 7. And we have some potential things maybe on the docket post Book 7. Mm-hmm. And, a couple of little bonus episodes and see where it goes. If people want us to continue, then we'll continue. And if not, that's fine. We will take our cue. But no, she said that would be amazing. What about the side-along books like Quidditch Through the Ages and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them? Could also do some short stories.
Yeah, like those Beetle and the Bard stories are
Beetle the Bard. There are some short stories that I think JK has published. There's like a prequel, like a short prequel that she published on Wizarding World and stuff like that. We could do those. Those are options. The movie reviews, I think, is something.
Do you want to do a movie review with me?
I have been critical of the movies myself.
I feel like I will be the most extreme of the guests
probably
you could
will
potentially
be,
have.
Which will turn me into a defender, which I'm not a huge fan. But there's that. Also, the HBO series is coming out at some point in the future.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
So we could also do that. Also, I am just starting my journey on Hogwarts Legacy on the PS5. So that might be a future thing. I don't know. There's some things that we might do once we are all done and wrapped up with this series, but it is approaching quite quickly. So thank you, Jenny, for the comment on Twitter. We really appreciate that interaction. We have another shout out, Riri, who left us a comment that we shouted out on last episode. Riri's left a comment on our Chapter 11 Hermione's Helping Hand episode from Half-Blood Prince. And Riri says, "I think Slughorn might not accept Ron just because he is Arthur's son." Riri says, "Slughorn liked Molly, so he probably wanted to see Ginny, but I think he would have avoided accepting any of the boys just because he didn't like their father. He probably would have accepted the twins, though. How could he not?" I got some thoughts on that. I do agree with you. He probably did not like Arthur. That's what Molly alludes to when Harry returns from recruiting Slughorn. Mm-hmm. Molly's like, "Oh, how'd you find him?" And Harry's just like, "Eh." And Molly's like, yeah. I think they were probably very neutral. I don't know that he liked Molly per se, necessarily. I think he was probably neutral towards Molly, given her stance on Slughorn. Mm-hmm. But she seemed to allude to the fact that Slughorn did not really think much of Arthur.
Yeah.
And I could see Slughorn seeing a lot of Arthur in Ron, maybe.
Yeah.
And I will agree that, yeah, maybe because of Arthur, he's not a super big fan of Ron, for whatever that's worth. I disagree with that line of thinking, because Arthur's very talented.
Ron has done quite a bit as well on his own.
Yeah. So, I think Slughorn's wrong to think that, but yeah, I could see where Riri's coming from as far as that link up.
I would agree about the twins. I feel like he would see them in a similar way he saw Ginny, where it was like, oh, even if it's a troublemaker kind of thing, it's talent, and I appreciate talent.
The other professors did, McGonagall and Flitwick. Granted, I will say this about the other professors. It took them a while.
What are you talking about?
It took them a while to be like, actually, you know what? They're pretty darn talented. Because they didn't show it in class.
You don't necessarily know that.
I do know that. They
might not have scored that many owls, but they knew that they had talent.
I don't know.
If you have, like...
They knew that they had talent when they started to branch out. And they started their business, and then they started advertising their business.
No. I think they saw that they had talent with their troublemaking and, like, the different things that they created.
McGonagall is not impressed by that.
I don't think they're necessarily enjoying it, but I think they recognize there's talent here. They're just using it in the wrong way and getting upset that their talents are being used to disturb classes and disrupt them, as opposed to, like... getting them more owls.
I think it's more like Molly, where it's like, you boys have potential, but you're not living up to it. You're not doing it.
I agree with that, but I don't think that they just didn't see them as having talent.
But then they eventually did, and I think that's where it changed a lot of minds.
I think Percy probably would not have grabbed Slughorn's attention, and I think that would have driven him absolutely up a wall.
I disagree.
Really? How come?
This is, okay, so going back to the comment, this is where I disagree with Riri, because I actually think most of them would get attention.
I think Charlie and Bill would.
Charlie and Bill and Percy and the twins eventually. I
know all of them eventually have their own levels of success, but I feel like Percy, because he was so strict with maintaining the rules, he was never a risk taker. It was, we got to do what's right and what's the rules. I don't think Slughorn would be impressed by that. I think he sees anyone who kind of steps outside of the box, the way Ginny did or the twins would, or even Harry. If you go outside the box and you make a name for yourself, or you are an independent thinker, that is what gets you momentum to succeed in life.
Hermione's not a rule breaker. She's very much
within the... She's done things that have broken the rules. They literally left school last year to go break into the Ministry of Magic.
She'd rather die than get a detention.
She broke into the Ministry of Magic.
Oh my gosh. So I have a one-word response. Connections. It's connections, basically.
In high school? Or not in high school. In school while in Hogwarts? I don't think he had connections.
Yeah. No, Percy wants to be that. And he had every resume. He got a ton of OWLs. He's brilliant. He was a head boy. He was a prefect. He's everything Slughorn would want. Slughorn, when he was there previously, was the head of Slytherin House. What's one of the defining characteristics of Slytherin House? Ambition. Percy's ambitious.
He's ambitious, yes.
It's a characteristic that Slughorn would innately value.
I still think, though, and maybe this could be the poll or something, I don't know, just in general, but I think that Percy wouldn't show himself as taking any type of risk that would set himself out into a path that would stand out to Slytherin, or to Slughorn.
Going after 12 OWLs?
I don't care if he has 12 OWLs. I think there's probably lots of kids, not necessarily that all have 12, but there's probably let's say the Weird Sisters, right? Okay, did the Weird Sisters all get a whole bunch of owls when they were in high school? We have no idea, but if they didn't and they were breaking the rules to break into a classroom so they could practice their music or something, I think Slughorn would see that risk-taking as, oh, you are willing to do whatever it takes to become what you want to be. I feel like Percy is just too much of a rule follower. And a suck up. And Slughorn
That's
doesn't...
what Slughorn loves, is a suck up.
I don't think he loves
He
suck
wants
ups.
all of the bribes
He
and
loves
gifts.
suck ups when they're like not making it blatantly obvious.
Why are you hating on Percy?
I'm not hating Percy. I'm just
everything
saying
Slughorn would want.
I don't think
He's
it is.
a smart, ambitious, ministry-focused individual. Riri, you might have, in your comment, you might have had the poll for this episode. No, I think Slughorn would value all of the older Weasley brothers, honestly. Might have taken a while for Fred and George to get there, but I think they would have gotten there.
I honestly think they would have gotten there the fastest out of everybody.
We're going to end the debate because we got to move on. We got a loaded chapter. Not disagree more. Okay, here we go. So this chapter is a packed one, and it starts with some Harry Ginny stuff. We get to, stunningly in this book, a little half-blood prince. And we further dive down that rabbit hole of who the half-blood prince could actually be. And then Harry very literally runs into Professor Trelawney. Mm-hmm. And then we also get Harry and Albus as well in this chapter. So this is a big one. So we'll start where we ended last chapter with Harry and Ginny. And Harry mentions that he is happier than he could remember being in a very long time.
Which is nice.
It is nice. It's a sweet sentiment.
It's also funny that everyone is so obsessed with their relationship. Like Jenny said, Romilda Vane asked if Harry had a hippogriff tattoo on his chest. It's like, girl, like what?
To which she responded, no, it's a Hungarian horntail.
I know, it's so funny. And then Ron just has like a, what was it?
A pygmy
puff.
Ginny's got jokes.
She is so funny.
Ginny's got
I
jokes.
love Book Ginny. She's so great.
I like how you differentiated Book Ginny.
There's a very big difference. Let's be real. Ron's also funny with this too, because he's like, I guess you guys have my approval. Just don't make out in front of other people. And she's like, you bloody hypocrite. Who was the one making out in front of everybody? Of the four of us? Just you.
Again, I will put a little bit of that blame on Lav. But yes, Ginny does call him quite a hypocrite for snogging in public, as they say. But they eventually turn to the idea of a half-blood prince. Hermione comes over and says, Harry, I need to talk to you. Which Harry, rightly so, is suspicious of.
Well, he thought she was going to yell at him for distracting Ginny from studying.
Yeah,
for
she's got her
owls.
OWLs. Yeah. But Harry had not yet retrieved the book from the room of requirement, and his potions class was suffering. And Slughorn attributed said struggles to his lovesick nature with his new girlfriend.
But he approves, so it's
he
okay.
approves of Ginny because they're both technically in the Slug Club. If the Slug Club ever
met again.
But yeah, Slughorn is approving of Ginny, so he's like, this works. Everything is right in the world.
Other than Harry's grade.
Other than Harry's grade, which is suffering. But I would assume he's still passing. Unless there's a different grading system at Hogwarts, which there very well may be. Anyway. Hermione reveals that she has discovered that there was an Eileen prince who was the captain of the Gobstones team at Hogwarts.
Yeah, there was a picture of her. Harry described her as looking cross and sullen with heavy brows and a long, pallid face. And Hermione's like, maybe she's the one who wrote this book. And he's like, no. It was written by a boy. Obviously, it was written by a boy. And Hermione she got offended at that. She's like, you just think girls wouldn't be as smart as boys. And he's like, are you kidding me? I've been friends with you for almost the entire time we've been here. I know you're smarter than the rest of us. So, of course, I think girls are capable of being smart. But I can just tell this was written by a guy.
So, I do think Hermione is a little off base with the comment of, well, you just don't think a girl can be that intelligent.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
she's
a little
accusing
off base.
him of being sexist.
He's been your best friend for 5.5 years. He's been your defender when Ron has been awful.
Yeah.
Like, that's a little off base. She doesn't have, I think, a whole lot to go on that front. But everything else, I think she's fair. I made a note that the paragraph of her trying to explain to Harry or get him to realize her point is essentially our podcast in a nutshell.
In what way?
It's a lot of her presenting a point and being like, well, it could be right? No. Listen to me. I know what you're going to say, but hear me out. I just feel like it's our podcast.
I feel like all of us have been on both sides of that. Do you think you could tell by just writing in a book if it was written by, like, a specific gender?
I think there is... there are people that literally study the subject, and they would absolutely say, yes, there is. So I guess factually, yes, you can. But
I know, like, some things about handwriting sometimes, but I just think about my own handwriting.
Some things about handwriting.
My handwriting is god-awful. I don't know if you'd be able to tell it was a woman writing or not.
I think it's a combination. I think it's the combination of the handwriting, and it's also a combination of what is actually being said and how it's being said. I think there is merit to that. Now, is like a equivalent to a high school kid, a teenager, going to be picking up on subtle details? No, I think he's saying that to try to defend his position. I don't know if he really means it, because he's still stuck on the whole, well, prince, it's clearly a prince. And Hermione's like, they don't exist in the wizarding world.
Yeah, like, here's evidence that there's a last name of someone with Prince.
Yeah, so it could be that.
Yeah.
It could be, like...
It could be the Half-Blood Potter. Like, you know? Like,
right. So it could be more of a different type of title. Like, Half-Blood, Prince. Like, you know, whatever. But, so, did I answer your question?
I guess, yeah. Yeah. It's just interesting that Harry is so certain that it's a man, not a woman, who wrote this.
Well, I think
it
was his first thought, so I think he's almost married to his first thought.
I can see that.
And he can't, like, break
free from
what
it.
his brain has trained itself to think. You know what I mean? Even though Hermione presents a pretty good argument. Ron refers to the prince as a genius and doesn't blame Harry for wanting the book back, which we talked about a little bit in the spoiler section of the last episode of would you want the book back or not, and I most definitely would.
Same.
So Peakes comes in to give Harry a note that basically just says it's time to meet Dumbledore and meet him immediately.
Now. Come to my office now. Okay.
Okay, so here's my thing about that. Here's my thing, just real quick. And this is where I got side tangent thoughts going on in this chapter. Why does everyone deliver letters to Harry? Can Albus not? Is there some, like, rule? Or is there some magic at play where Dumbledore can't call on Harry himself? Can he not be seen walking the halls of Hogwarts?
Can I give the teacher...
Have we ever heard of him walking the halls at Hogwarts?
Can I give the teacher answer? It's laziness.
Now I'm
it
thinking
is
about
so much easier to just, like, be like, hey, kid, go get so-and-so. They're just, like, across the hall. Go grab them.
Seriously, though, have we ever... And I get Albus is a busy man. And he's tied into a lot of things happening in the wizard world prior to this war breaking out. But it's always McGonagall really, like, running the show.
Well, she's the one who's right underneath him.
I mean, he gives a speech at the start of term and at the end of term. But other than that, you don't see him, like, walking down the hallway being like, hey, Mandy Brocklehurst, what's going on? How's Transfiguration going?
Well, to your point, I think Dumbledore is kind of more on the line of, I've got too much important stuff to do. I'm not going to leave my office. So, hey, kid, deliver this note for me. It's laziness.
So does he find this kid? Or does he give another letter to another kid to give that letter to Harry? How does this process
maybe
work?
It was like he was disciplining...
Does he send an owl to the kid being like, hey, send this letter? But then why did you just send the owl to Harry? Like, I don't understand why it can't be direct. He could literally magic a letter to fly itself through the halls of Hogwarts and land in Harry's hand.
I hope Peeves doesn't grab it, I guess.
If you've ever seen the Fantastic Beasts movies, minor spoiler, Dumbledore sends, like, a glove to Newt.
Yeah.
And, like, has Newt follow a glove.
Yeah.
To where, like, this seems awfully weird. I'm just saying.
Maybe it was like Peekes was in his office for some reason and it was just like, hey, by the way, since you're here, give this to Harry Potter.
Well, regardless, Harry does end up getting the letter and thus makes his way to Albus's office, where he meets Trelawney on the way. Mm-hmm. He hears a big crash, a boom, and finds Trelawney getting up from the ground with some bottles.
She was trying to be in the room of requirement, trying to hide bottles of sherry, but there was a male somebody already in the room who threw her out after she heard him whooping gleefully.
Yeah, so Harry tries to piece this together. He tries to interrogate Trelawney on who this might have been, and she says that couldn't distinguish the voice. Once she called out to that person, they made the entire room go dark.
I love Harry being like, you didn't see that one coming?
Yeah, so here's my thing on that. Harry's taking a shot at her being psychic. She gives him a stern look back like...
Well, no, she started being like, well, it was dark. And then she was like, oh,
you're making a jab at...
I see
which,
what you're doing.
that's not how any of that works, Harry. And I will defend her on that. That's not how that works. Harry, you know this.
You took her class.
You know it.
You should know that, yes.
It's in the books. She said it herself. Also, you know she's legit. Don't be snippy.
He can't help
There's
himself.
no need. Don't be rude. Just don't be rude to people. Anyway. So Trelawney says that she has warned Albus multiple times of impending doom and has been dismissed.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. She then dramatically pulls a card out of her shawls, which is the Lightning Struck Tower card.
Yeah, the tarot card, which she said is supposed to signify calamity, disaster, coming closer and closer and closer. Mm-hmm. Which I looked. That is an actual tarot card. I don't know much about tarot, but Google says it exists, so I'll take its word for it.
Harry also dismisses this, like, oh, she's giving warnings of doom. Mm-hmm. Shocker. And Trelawney says that she misses Harry. He was such a wonderful object in class. By the way, object, capital O.
Yes.
Which is just interesting.
This is where I think brings up the debate we've previously had about Trelawney. I think this is another example of her letting her overdramatic nature get in the way of her success and being taken seriously.
We'll talk more. We'll delve more into Trelawney in the spoiler section.
Okay.
Yeah, she misses Harry. She misses Harry as an object.
He's like, I don't miss that.
Absolutely not. She also goes on a little mini rant about Firenze not noticing catastrophe, but thought she was rather comical. Mm-hmm. Which I also have thoughts about Firenze in the spoiler section. I have a lot of thoughts about all of that.
She said it upset her, though, and she's like, she felt the need almost to prove her value. She said how, like, Dumbledore sought her out to interview at the Hog's Head, and she had the impression he was against divination, but
this is her first interview.
Yeah, her first interview.
So she goes into a tale about the first interview that she had with Albus for her job.
And she said clearly she impressed him enough to be hired, because if he was seemingly against even having divination at Hogwarts and then interviewed her and then was like made it a subject, clearly she has worth and Firenze needs to like take her more seriously.
The interview, she goes into more detail upon, says she stayed at the Hog's Head, which had bed bugs, so don't stay there. And they interviewed, he actually came to her room at the Hog's Head to do the interview.
Which is weird.
That's a little weird. And I would assume it's because Albus was fairly dismissive of this interview to begin with. So
even still,
it's
weird.
He didn't plan on being there for more than probably a minute. But anyway. Yes, it is still weird interviewing someone in their hotel room.
Yeah.
Regardless. The interview was interrupted by one Severus Snape.
This is one of those moments. You know that shot in movies where it's like the camera zooms in on the person, but everything surrounding them seems to like zoom out? You know,
yeah.
I feel like this
is a zoom in on Harry?
Yes, as like the world around him collapses.
Harry realizes it was Snape that told Voldy of the prophecy, and thus Snape and Pettigrew together essentially sent Voldy after his parents.
So it's Snape's fault his parents are dead.
So I feel like Harry was being rather okay with Snape, given the fact that he almost killed Draco in the last chapter, and was like, you know what? I'm going to give Snape a pass on this one. I deserve whatever punishment I get. And now it's all guns blazing. He's like, I hate this man. This man is the worst.
Plus the fact that, like, Dumbledore has been aware of this. And Dumbledore has allowed him to teach and be around children and all that. It's like, what betrayal by everybody, it feels like, right now.
Yeah, Harry is in a state of shock and anger at the news that Trelawney has just dropped on him, which Trelawney is blissfully ignorant of. The plan was for Trelawney and Harry to make their way to Albus's office to report on who might have been in the room of requirement that expelled Trelawney. Now, however, Harry is like, forget Trelawney.
Like, you stay here.
I am going to Albus real quick.
I'm just imagining from a teacher's perspective, like, going towards your boss's office and then one of your students being like, no, I'm going without you, and just, like, runs off. You stay here. Like,
and you wonder why Snape considers him entitled. You wonder why. But anyway. So he runs to confront Albus. He finds Albus waiting, ready to travel, with a traveling cloak on his arm. Albus notes that he has found a Horcrux, and upon that news, Harry finds himself in a state of rage and resentment, fighting shock and excitement, which I think is a really introspective thought by Harry, of just being able to self-reflect and being like, I don't even know what to feel right now.
right. There's too many feelings.
And Albus is like, it's okay to be afraid. And he's like, actually, fear is the one thing I am not feeling right now. The conversation goes on for a little bit. And obviously, Harry stormed in here. And Albus is like, I'm assuming he thinks that Harry storming in here is his enthusiasm to go on this quest. And the more he's telling Harry about said quest, like, oh, we're going to the cave that Voldy once terrorized children, and this will be, like, exceedingly dangerous, and, you know, are you ready? And Harry's responses don't seem particularly, like...
They're too aggressive.
They don't match where it should be.
Yeah, it's not the right tone.
And that's when Albus notices, like, are you okay? Like, are we good right now? And then Harry just lets it out.
Yeah.
He lets it out, and he yells at Albus, although he tries to keep it a little bit more reserved.
Oh, because, like, I really do want to go to this cave.
I don't want to burn that bridge. And he essentially accuses Albus of putting his trust in a con man that got his parents killed. And Albus counters that Snape was employed by Voldy at the time and could not necessarily be blamed for going to his master and giving him information. That's what you would expect him to do. And he also notes that Snape could not have known exactly which parents Voldy would target.
Right, because remember, it could have been the Longbottoms.
Yeah,
not
it was
the
still
Potters.
vague. It didn't specifically say.
Yeah. Especially the information Snape got. He didn't hear the whole prophecy.
Right. And I don't know how versed Snape is in schoolmates and children and all of that. I don't know that he has a Facebook page. So...
That does bring up a good point, though. Like, who was aware that who was pregnant, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. Or the timing of it or whatever.
Yeah.
But ultimately, Albus attests that Snape felt true remorse over the outcome, and it could be the greatest regret of his life. Harry questions this yet again, which, honestly, I don't blame Harry here.
No.
I think he's justified in his anger, and I think he's justified in the emotion that he's bringing. I don't blame Harry for being over the top here. This is a lot for him that he just got dropped. So I don't blame him here exactly.
Well, I mean, there's no real solid evidence based on what was just told to him that he should trust Snape. And he said Dumbledore looked almost like he was going to say something about him to kind of ease Harry's mind, but he changed his mind about saying it and was just like, look, I trust Snape completely. If you trust me, trust Snape.
I am sure I trust Severus Snape completely, is what Albus said. And Harry accuses Albus, well, he doesn't even fully accuse him. He starts to accuse Albus of leaving the school unprotected as he travels. And Albus, calmly but sternly, disagrees with that assessment. Do not suggest that I do not take the safety of my students seriously.
Well, I mean, like, to be fair to Harry, Dumbledore isn't aware that Malfoy is currently celebrating it up in the room of requirement, and it does seem reckless to leave the school when Malfoy is excited in this way.
Yeah, but you're calling Albus Dumbledore a fool. Do you really think, of all the things you can call Albus, and you can call him a great many things, a fool I don't think is one of them. So, and Harry notes, like, as soon as Dumbledore says this do not suggest that I don't take my student safety seriously, he notes, I just crossed the line. I've officially stepped over the line. I was
He was
good,
afraid,
now I'm not.
like, now I'm not going to go to the cave.
And personally, I do think that is true. I think that's where he crossed the line because, I mean, come on. Really? Do you think at this point in time, Albus is going to be like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm just going to go to Cancun. I think I'm just going to take like a weekend to myself and sit on a beach.
See, this is funny. I
No.
was 100% predicting you to be like, yeah, Dumbledore doesn't care about the...
You're predicting me to say that?
Yeah, I thought you were for
No.
sure going to be like, oh, Dumbledore is totally negligent of the safety of the students at Hogwarts.
No, I would expect him to he's not a dumb man. I would
No,
expect
but
him to have...
there's plenty of times where he doesn't necessarily keep them all safe.
Those are two different things. He's
That's
not...
where I thought you were going to be going with this.
No. Yes, children get maimed here often. That is factual. But he's not leaving the castle unguarded.
No,
in a
he's
time
not.
of war.
He's not.
Those are two very different things. So, but anyway, he describes the mission, that I'm going to call it. Harry can come on one condition. That he obey any command Albus gives him at once and without question.
No matter what.
Follow such orders such as run, hide, and go back and save yourself. Leave me behind and save yourself. To which Harry agrees to all of those conditions.
He hesitates at least a little second.
On the
at
last
one.
one.
At the one.
he-
Of leaving Dumbledore behind.
He hesitates on leaving Dumbledore behind to save himself. And Albus like doubles down. He's like, you're agreeing to this before I take you. And honestly, to me, I get Harry's in an emotional state and he gets very irrational in this state, but those conditions would be a little alarming.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
especially if you're with the greatest wizard potentially ever telling you, like, this is exceedingly dangerous. Run or hide when I tell you to.
Well, it definitely gives the impression that, like, you could die tonight. That you could be in very serious...
There are stakes.
There's high stakes with
He's
this.
setting stakes. He implores Harry to go grab his invisibility cloak. So he gives Hermione the Marauder's map. He tells her to utilize the DA however you can. Hopefully the coins still work. If they do, great. Assemble anybody and everyone.
And, like, patrol the school a little bit.
Specifically watch out for Draco and Snape. Watch them on the map. He gives the Felix potion to Ron and then says, you guys take it. I'll be fine. I'm with Albus. I'm with Dumbledore. So he takes the invisibility cloak back to Albus, and they walk out of the castle, and they walk to Hogsmeade.
Long enough for Rosmerta to see them and him be like, I want to go to the Hog's Head tonight.
That's a classic espionage trick of, like, someone has seen me.
Yeah.
They know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to go over here and do something else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is. But they apparate from Hogsmeade and arrive on a coastline. So, and that's where the chapter ends. Do you have anything else for the non-spoilers?
No?
All right. We will wrap up the non-spoiler then and take a little break, and we will be back with the spoiler section. Before we get to our break sound, I'd like to acknowledge our friend Andy, who helps us produce our intros and our break sounds. If you want to hear more of Andy's work and like Formula One racing, check out the Outlap F1 podcast. It's your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. You can find them wherever you listen to podcasts, and they even have a YouTube page. So check out Andy, Cody, John, James, and Deanna, and join them on the Outlab.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Where's my 1-1?
All right, so we are back with the spoiler section of Chapter 25, The Seer Overheard. And we will get to that Seer in a second. But
Can I just say, too, now that you're saying the title, I enjoy the idea of the seeing being overheard. Like that dual senses thing. That's fun.
before we get to that Seer being overheard, we will talk about Hermione stumbling upon the mother of one, Severus Snape.
Yeah. I'm surprised they couldn't see more of Snape in his mother's picture. Like, if it was just, oh, here's Eileen Prince, yeah, like, it wouldn't necessarily register as, like, oh, she's related to Snape. But the description of her being so pallid and, like,
sullen
and stuff, you would think there's some kind of facial features.
Resemblance.
Yeah, I mean, it's his mom.
Harry especially, because he has seen what a teenage version of
Snape looks like. Yeah.
So, yes, but I think that's, like, the furthest thing from their mind.
Probably.
And obviously they don't make the connection because Prince and Snape are two very different names.
Maybe if she had a hook nose, but I think
that was his father.
I think it was his father.
Trait. But, yeah. So, you know, a little
breadcrumb again.
a little, like, detail that she just slides in there. So, Eileen Prince, mother of Severus Snape. I like how Ron also goes, the prince is a genius. And I'm like...
If they only knew.
I'm like, yes, Ron, Snape is. You were correct. So, yeah, there was that little tidbit. I think you had a note on Snape as well.
We know that Dumbledore he came very close, almost revealed to Harry the fact that it was Snape's love for Lily that makes Dumbledore trust him. But he has promised Snape he will never reveal that, so he keeps his word. He does not tell Harry the one thing that could make him truly trust Snape, which is unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for Harry. It's unfortunate for Albus. It's unfortunate for Severus. Mm-hmm. Yet, it's a key detail that keeps this whole thing going until it absolutely cannot go any further.
Yeah.
So, I mean... like, who knows if Albus slips right there, not slips, but
if
chooses.
He made the choice,
if he chooses to fill in Harry on that crucial bit of information, that could alter a lot of things between now and when Snape chooses to divulge that information.
Yeah, I mean,
Book 7.
Snape could have decided, you've betrayed me, I'll betray you.
I don't know that that's it. I think it's just Harry would set some events in motion because...
he also couldn't keep a secret.
Yeah, he doesn't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And I think he would make a lot of bad choices. Not necessarily his fault. I'm not blaming Harry for this. But
no, it'd be hard to wrap your mind around.
You can't unknow it.
Yeah.
And it's that thing, once you know it, you can't unknow it. Yeah. And then it's hard to think of anything else. Mm-hmm. And now you have a different relationship with a bunch of different people in your life. And it's just weird.
It's weird, yeah.
So I'm not blaming Harry for that, but... it would be a problem. If he
Good on Dumbledore for not saying it, though, because honestly, I think in that moment, I would be so tempted to just say it and just be like, trust me. Just trust me. This is why.
Well, he's
tempted. On the right side.
He was clearly very tempted. Uh-huh. And he just takes a breath and goes, I am sure. I trust him completely. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And... if you were any other man other than Albus Dumbledore, I don't know that would be good enough for anybody. Mm-hmm. But I feel like when Albus Dumbledore calmly, definitively states something, you have to just accept that. Mm-hmm. And you're not allowed to question, because who are you to question Albus Dumbledore?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that. But you know who gets questioned often?
Tell me, Dan.
Professor Sybil Trelawney is questioned often. So, Harry is awfully dismissive, and Albus Dumbledore is awfully dismissive of Trelawney's constant prognostications of doom. And
To be fair, I feel like Dumbledore being dismissive is different from Harry being dismissive. I feel like Dumbledore dismisses because he knows his end is coming. He knows calamity is coming. Maybe not in the way that it does exactly present itself.
well, isn't that the point?
But he's aware, like, my death is coming. Her warning me about it is not going to change that fact. If anything, it might make it even harder for me.
But, so, back a long time ago. A long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away.
No, when we did book 3.
Oh, okay.
Which is a long, long time ago now. and assorted other books where she comes up with her little, I don't want to say predictions, but...
Times where she's being...
She's not
accurate.
prophetic, but she's being accurate in what she's...
Interpreting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
She does have a good track record.
Because she's legit, which
Yes.
no one seems to actually acknowledge. But this is another example of her not maybe going into like full-blown prophecy mode, but being like, you know, every time I run these, it's the same result. Mm-hmm. And I brought up back then, like, predicting the future is one thing. Interpreting it is another.
Yeah.
What she's doing is she's predicting the future. This will happen. It's just usually her interpretations are off, which isn't technically her job.
It was the difference between predictions and prophecies. Where, like...
Both similar, though.
Similar, but, like, where the prophecies would be, like, when she goes into that trance-like state and she doesn't really remember what she said. Predictions, she is making legitimate stabs at what's going to happen in the future, but you're right, like, you have to interpret it correctly.
Right. But it also goes back to her actual divination class, right? She is a seer. Mm-hmm. We know this. Albus assumes she's a legit seer only because of the random offshoot occasional prophecy that she makes.
Well, that and the reputation of her great-great-grandmother.
Yeah, but even then, he was doubtful about her.
Yeah.
He was doubtful that she inherited that gift.
Yeah. I mean, that's why she got the interview, though.
Only out of respect for the family name.
Yeah.
My point is, he doesn't like the subject of divination. McGonagall does not like the subject of divination. What's in divination? Crystal balls, palm reading, tea leaves, tarot cards. Dreams. We've seen her predict stuff using those modes of divination accurately. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing it here in this chapter where she's picking out a tarot card and she's like, I get this more often. It's a sign. I'm telling you it's a sign.
Well, this goes back to our disagreement in book 3 when we got heated, where I think, yes, she's good at being a seer, but her personality gets in the way of her seeing.
I don't disagree with that. My only counter to that would be her personality is formed, as all of our personalities are formed, by our experiences. Mm-hmm. And she, unfortunately, has been the victim of a lot of shaming and a lot of doubting and a lot of just poor self-esteem, like, all around her from people shouting her down, like, oh, you're crazy, oh, you're nuts, oh, you're clearly wrong, all of that. That takes a toll on whoever you are, and it's probably a little cause of her love of...
The dramatics?
No, the sherry bottles.
Oh, well, that, yes, that too.
I mean, she's depressed. Mm-hmm. And let's be honest,
well, I mean, consider everything that she went through last year with Umbridge. It's enough to make anyone go
That
crazy.
is a whole other level of abuse that she undertook, which no one deserves.
Yeah.
Anyone.
Yeah.
But also, let's be real about it. You know, we talk about how she wants to be in the North Tower all alone. Albus keeps her in a little bit of a prison. He doesn't let her go out and about because she is a key to a whole thing that she's not even fully aware of.
Yeah, it's similar with not telling Harry the full extent of what the prophecy means for him. It's like with Snape being like, oh, I've led a pig to the slaughter. That's essentially what you've had me do with protecting him all these years. But at the same time, I don't know if Dumbledore can really do anything different if he were to tell her about her powers, about her prophecy. If anyone were to kidnap her, I don't think she'd be great at defending herself and keeping it a secret.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous for his whole plan of bringing about peace and taking down Voldemort.
Okay, but that doesn't change the fact that she's locked away in a castle. Like, Snape gets to go to his Spinner's End place.
Yeah.
And I don't know where McGonagall is, but I guarantee it's probably not the castle. It's probably somewhere else in Scotland.
Their whole, like, summer lives in general is interesting to me. I don't fully know what they do.
I think there's a lot that goes into the character of Sybil Trelawney, and I don't think a lot of people understand what a lot of the outside pressure can do to a person. Make them an alcoholic, make them depressed, make them feel like they have to go out of their way to prove their self-worth, which then only makes it worse. And that's where we find Sybil Trelawney. But my point is, Albus dismisses divination altogether. This is literal factual proof that the subject of divination is real. You just do have to have a gift to divine it.
Well, I think when the way Albus looks at divination is a lot of like, there are so many factors that have to align perfectly in order for the prediction to come true. I mean, we saw that with book 3 with the time travel and how if one thing had changed, the whole prediction falls apart. So I think for him, it's like, look, since it's so difficult to do, I'm not going to put much stock by it, and I'm not going to trust it for making my plans go through, if that makes sense.
I get the interpretation that Albus Dumbledore values Firenze and his style of divination more.
It's more cautious.
I think, well, here's the thing. I think it's all perception-based. I think the Centaurs present a certain level of perception that's more noble and dignified and presentable.
And cautious.
Than what, not necessarily cautious, because they predict war all the time.
Yeah, but they take...
Mars is red tonight.
Yes, but they've also been looking at Mars for 10 years. Like, it's a more... I'm not going to definitively say this is what this means.
But anyway, I think the perception of centaurs is different. And I understand that Trelawney's not presenting herself in the best way to make herself maybe seem as professional, per se. But when she says she's got a little feud brewing with Firenze and Firenze thinks she's comical, I think Dumbledore at times in this series, I would dare say often, has a presumption of I'm better than you, and I know I'm better than you. And the centaurs also, as far as creatures go in the Forbidden Forest, have a perception of I'm better than you, I know I'm better than you, kind of way of going about things. And I think it's an air of arrogance that does them both poorly. Draco ends up getting one over on Albus because he doesn't think it's... I think he underestimates Draco and his abilities, number one. Number two, I think Firenze is looking at Trelawney being like, I'm sorry, you're going to tell me the future based on a card? I'm sorry, it's right. It's actually right. And I think their arrogance leads them down a path that they end up thinking about later and going, oh, I was wrong.
I think it's fair for Firenze to see Trelawney come at him and be like, I can't take you seriously. I think the fact that Firenze knows how difficult it is to properly predict the future, something that even centaurs have mistaken in the past, to have someone come up to you and be like, oh, I'm so certain that this is going to happen this way. And you're like, I have seen no evidence ever in history to still leave room for the unknown. I think that's a really smart thing to do when you're considering the future.
What I'm saying as far as Firenze versus Trelawney is, first of all, I'm going to take Trelawney at her word here of being like, I wanted his opinion on this. I'm like, have you seen this?
Oh, yeah.
Have you interpreted this?
I would agree with that.
Okay. So she's going to him and being like, hey, have you...
One expert to the another.
Yeah, have you, like, seen these signs? Mm-hmm. And I think he, as well as other centaurs, view their version of divination as superior, and all others less so, if not fraudulent. And I get that opinion based on literally what he said in his class.
Mm-hmm. When he said humans aren't usually good at being able to spot signs and the smoke or whatever.
Right. Well, I'm saying his arrogance in that his version of divination is superior blinds him to other methods of divining the future. Just like Albus saying, my prodigious skill in wisdom. Like, well, okay, yes, you are, but you can miss some small stuff.
I still disagree about him underestimating Malfoy. I mean, the fact Malfoy gets up to him and he kind of like claps and is like, good job. Like, you succeeded with your plan. It was a complicated one. I'll give you that. How did you do it? Oh, yeah. Okay. That was really...
How many characters...
What a good independent project that you had
How
here.
many characters get one over on Albus Dumbledore in this series?
But I think Dumbledore keeps such a close eye on all the students that aspects of that he knew was going on.
Malfoy figured out a way to get Death Eaters inside his castle, making the students that he's supposed to protect suddenly very much unsafe. There's a war that breaks out inside the castle.
But like you said, that's why he left the order, like, defending it.
Yeah, but he was still surprised by that.
See, I disagree with the interpretation. I think the surprise comes from when we get to that chapter. I'm pretty sure there's a sentence where he's like, I was not expecting you to be willing to let some of these Death Eaters come into the school where your friends are. And he was like, it wasn't my choice who gets to come in or not. Like Greyback. He didn't want him coming around.
That was a Greyback specific.
But he was like, he's dangerous and your friends are here. And he's like, well, I didn't really want them to come. Like, I think Malfoy just thought to the point of, can I succeed with this? He didn't think any second after the actual success.
He was only opposed to Greyback. Because Greyback unnerves everyone on both sides of this for valid reasons, but that's still underestimating Draco.
I don't know. We can get more people's opinions on it for sure, especially as we get to those chapters.
We'll get to it when we get to the chapter.
The only other spoiler-ish thing, speaking of Malfoy, we know when Dumbledore and Harry left and Rosmerta saw Dumbledore seemingly alone, she's the one who alerted Malfoy that Dumbledore's out of the castle, so therefore tonight is the night to invite the Death Eaters in. So, lucky timing on your part that you got it repaired, sir.
There was fortuitous timing, for sure. Which Harry does try to bring up to Albus. He's like, "You're leaving the castle when..."
And I do think that was Dumbledore's mistake of like, if Malfoy is celebrating, that means something.
In fairness to Dumbledore, could have been anybody in the room requirement. Again, it's foolish to think that... he says that Voldy was foolish to think that everyone...
knows the secrets.
Like, only he knew about the room of requirement. That's a foolish thing.
Yeah, but I feel like Snape has been keeping close enough an eye to know that he keeps disappearing, and he would have told Dumbledore.
Maybe. But mistakes were made by a lot of people. And Dumbledore has vacated the castle. So that's where we leave it.
Off to the cave.
So we will wrap it up here for chapter 25 after a lot of vigorous debate, which will continue after the episode ends. But hopefully the debate will continue with you all commenting on Spotify and Twitter and Instagram and letting us know what you think on all of our debates that we have here on the episodes.
Your comment might spur a brand new debate, too.
Thank you, Riri, for that comment that sparked a debate that I didn't realize we were going to have today. So thank you for that. But Yeah, leave those comments. You can find us at Hogwarts a Pod on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube, which is brand new. So please help that continue to grow by leaving a like, subscribing. That all helps. Yeah, if you'd like to support the podcast financially, you could click the Support the Podcast link wherever you could find the podcast. Just leaving a 5-star review or sharing the podcast to all of your friends and family and loved ones, and or just people randomly on the street that have a Harry Potter anything. That helps too. So thank you all for listening. We really appreciate all the engagement, and we will see you back here next week for Chapter 26. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.